Welcome to Bodybuilding History Basics. Today's episode I'll be talking about Mike Mentzer, who's known for his heavy-duty training style. Mike Mentzer is one of the classic bodybuilders of the 1970s. Mike's story is one of tragedy, but also redemption and dedication. He will always be remembered for not only having one of the greatest physiques of all time, but also for having one of the greatest stories. Mike won 10 first-place titles, from Mr. Lancaster in 1971 to the heavyweight Mr. Olympia in 1979. Mike Mentzer started bodybuilding at the young age of 12 years old. Mike's first set of weights was born for him by his father. He began training 3 times a week. By the age of 15, Mike could bench 370 pounds with a body weight of just 165 pounds. Mike was just getting warmed up though. When he began his 4-year service to the United States Air Force, Mike was spending 6 days a week in the gym, normally for 3 hours at a time. Mike won his first competition in 1971 at the age of 18. Mike then had an injury and had to step down from bodybuilding for 3 years. When Mike came back, he came back in full action. Mike entered the 1975 IFBB Mr. America to see where he stood. It was a respectable comeback, coming in a modest 3rd place after Roger Collared and the Black Prince Robbie Robertson. Now I'm going to talk about Mike's most famous competition, the 1980 Olympia, also the most controversial, or second controversial, Olympia of all time. The 1980 IFFB Mr. Olympia in Sydney was Mike's next major competition. 1 year earlier in 1979, Mike had started using amphetamines he claimed that he needed for activity and didn't use it for recreation. While there was no long-term reported side effects at the time, Mike began to suffer from fatigue and would spend full days in bed without being able to even lift an arm. He described the feeling as being on death's door. 2 days before the 1980 Mr. Olympia took place, Mike was revisited by the death's door feeling. It wasn't until the morning of the competition that he had felt he had recovered. Mike said, "I looked my best, but I didn't feel at my best. It just didn't feel like a normal contest. No one was being their usual self. There was a strain and tension in the air all the way through." Later that day, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was believed to be retired, announced his intentions to compete in the event. Mike was not happy with this. A meeting was called. Many reports proclaimed insults and exchanges between Mentzer and Schwarzenegger that nearly broke out into a fight. Mike placed 5th in that competition and was not happy. Mike Mentzer died on June 10th, 2001, the day before both he and his brother Ray were working on a fitness DVD titled Hit. After a day of shooting, Ray turned into bed. Mike, being Mike, stayed up late to work on the script. Despite his younger brother insisting he took a break, it was that morning that Mike was found to be dead by his sibling. He had suffered a heart attack in his sleep, a tragic loss, and one that was to be followed shortly by his brother. After failing to turn up to dialysis session, Ray too was found dead in the same apartment not 48 hours later.